Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is the fourth day of DCA's Fall Conference 2020. It's hard to believe that it's almost over. This afternoon, we'll wrap up our sessions. Just as a reminder, all of the sessions are being recorded, and they will be placed on DCA's website following the conclusion of the conference. As Dana asked a moment ago, please make sure that your microphone is muted. If you are dialing in from a telephone, please make sure that is muted so we don't get the feedback from that. You have the opportunity to put questions in the chat. We will answer questions when we get to the end. There's also the opportunity to raise your hand if there's a question that you feel needs to be asked audibly as opposed to by our moderators. And at the end of the session, you will get an evaluation, and we would appreciate your feedback associated with this session. It's going to help us as we move forward. I'm Rusty Haygood, Deputy Commissioner with our Community Development, Community Finance, and Historic Preservation Divisions here at DCA, and I'm going to toss it over to John Ellis to get us started.
Great, thanks, Rusty. So, Dana, I'm going to ask a quick question. When I look at my screen, I see the presentation very small at the bottom. Is that just me? Does everybody see the presentation larger?
Everyone else should be able to see the presentation full screen, aside from you and Rusty on the top.
Okay, thank you. So as Rusty said, I'm John Ellis. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for DCA, and want to welcome you to today's session. We're going to preview some exciting changes in the system that's used by DCA to manage its various grant programs, and it's going to translate into a more streamlined process for our grantees. So we have several members from our project team here today, so I'm going to do some quick introductions. As I said, I'm John Ellis, and you've just heard from Rusty Haygood. The other members of our team are Radina Funderburk, who's a DCA business analyst and our project manager. Amanda Yates is the project manager for eCivis. Anthony Torres is the customer success manager with eCivis, and Rick Thompson is the project lead with Accenture. So before we dive into the presentation, we want to get a little feedback from each of you by taking a quick poll. So you can either use your phone or your desktop, laptop computer, and go to www.menti.com. And then once you get to that site, enter the following code that you'll see there on that slide, which is 9613075. And so once you get there, I want you to think about your current experience in seeking funding from DCA and enter some words that come to mind that best describe that experience. So all of this is anonymous, so feel free to be candid. We promise we cannot track your responses, so we're not going to do that and then take points off your next grant application. Just tell us, as you think about interacting with DCA to secure grant funding, what are some words that come to mind for you? We'll give people a few minutes to do that. And y'all will see Menti is building a word cloud based on your responses. So whatever's in a larger font, there are more responses related to that word. We're getting some themes here. Y'all have a pretty good vocabulary, lots of words. Okay, it seems like we've got some good feedback. So, you know, I'm seeing some words like cumbersome, paperwork, complicated, confusing. There's some positive words in there, helpful. Glad to see that. But you do see there's a little bit of a theme there with some of those words. Cumbersome, complicated, paperwork, maybe confusing. So we're going to talk to you about some changes that are coming that could address some of those feelings y'all talked about. So, well, now that we know some of your thoughts on the current process, I'm going to fill you in on how grants management at DCA will be changing. So we're currently in the process of implementing a new enterprise-wide grants management system. And while we plan to be fully operational in the new system by July of next year, we're still in the process of configuring the system to meet each grant program's need. So today, we won't be able to answer questions about how specific components of individual grant programs will be handled, but we're going to talk to y'all about why the change is happening, how it'll impact you as grantees, and then provide a high-level overview of kind of the major functionality of the new system. So our new system is known as the Grant Application Administration and Management System, or GRAM for short, and it'll be on the eCivis platform. So we selected eCivis after a thorough procurement process that considered over a dozen bidders. And one of the reasons we picked eCivis is just the ease of use for our grantees and the fact that their solution is widely used, well respected in the public sector. And their product is used in over 1,000 government entities across the US. So what made us decide to make such a big change? So some of the words in your word cloud make it obvious why maybe now's a good time for some change. But there's several reasons I'll talk about. But the bottom line is DCA wants to improve and enhance the grants management experience for all of our grantees. So one of the issues we have is we have multiple systems. So right now DCA uses a patchwork of systems to manage 16 different grant programs. And while they've been doing their job well, those systems really don't talk to each other or handle the full grant life cycle from application all the way to closeout. Another issue we have, and y'all referenced it in that word cloud, is it's very paper intensive. So it'll probably come as a shock to y'all that our processes are filled with paper. All of the paper slows down the process, which in turn slows y'all down. We do have a lot of manual processing as well. So while our programs have been around a long time, while technology is continuously advanced, our grant processes haven't always kept up with those advancements. And then there's the complex reporting we do. So there's lots of great work that's being done all across our state by our grantees as they use our resources to better their communities and the lives of their citizens. And DCA collects data on all of those important accomplishments. Unfortunately, it's not always easy for us to pull that information out and show the true impact of those investments in our state. So now that you know a little bit more about why this change is happening, Rusty's going to talk to you about how it will impact you going forward. So I'll turn it over to you, Rusty.
Thank you, John. As I start today, I want to really focus this time on telling you how this is going to impact you, not give specific solutions as to exactly what button you push and where you click and things of that nature. And I'm gonna have to start myself by calling this by its name, Graham. We just decided on that name within the last week, so it's still new to us. So if you catch me saying Grants Management System, I hope you'll forgive me because it's a new experience here to start calling it Graham. But Graham is going to serve as a portal for both grant and loan opportunities within the agency. Some of you work with DCA in both grant and loan programs. So this is going to be a solution that is going to be applicable across the spectrum for how we interact with you. First, communities are going to be able to find funding opportunities and submit applications online through a single web portal. You're going to look in one place and find all of the offerings that are through the agency, and you're going to be able to submit the application there as well. How will this help cities and counties and nonprofits or authorities from across the state? You're going to have to go to one place, not 16 different places, to find the application and proceed. We think that's going to be helpful to you. So hopefully as time moves forward, you're going to be able to see the benefit from that. Not only are you going to be able to find the information about applying and have the single web portal through which you would apply for all the funding, it means we're going to have an electronic application process. So as John had pointed out, lots of programs are paper intensive. We're going to be able to eliminate the production of so many paper documents. We're going to allow you to submit the applications online. You'll have a location within the application portal where you can upload relevant documentation to support your application. So all of the facets of the application will be self-contained, everything in one place. You will be able to see what's remaining within there for you to complete your application and have the ability to enter and upload all that information and know that your application has been received by DCA. Within the system, you're going to have workflows that are set up, and part of those workflows are going to be communication when things come to us and when things are received and things of that nature. But one word of caution, if you wait until the last minute and you encounter some problems, the portal will be timing out at whatever cutoff we have, and it will prevent additional uploads or submissions. So know that you should plan your work accordingly and not wait until the last minute in order to make sure that this benefits you as a community or a grant writer, grant preparer, etc. Once a grant is awarded, grantees will use the web portal to manage the full life cycle of that grant. That's going to include payment requests, reporting accomplishments and progress, and rather than relying on a manual process to ensure that these types of communications get to us, those are going to be built into the system as well. There will be tasks, I'm going to call them tasks, to remind users, whether that be the city, the county, the authority, the nonprofit, the grant administrator, whomever, of upcoming due dates for submission of items to DCA. So that's going to be built into the system as well. And we're hoping that all of our recipients and any grant writers or administrators will see significant benefits from this program. Of course, this is a time of change. Some people are more willing to accept change than others. Some it doesn't bother, and some have trouble moving forward through change. We know it's a big change, and it seems like everything in 2020 has been a big change at this point. But we're hoping that this is going to provide a much more efficient process for you to partner with DCA on funding opportunities. Let's start with some of the basics. We touched on it on the last slide, but grantees will be able to submit applications and other documents within the system. And let's give a little example here. Say you have a request for reimbursement that's coming to DCA. You will simply need to upload the proper documentation, complete the necessary drawdown forms, electronically sign the request, and transmit it. At that point, you should receive confirmation that the request has been received by DCA. There's no reliance on the mail or hoping that it doesn't get caught up in our email systems as spam. These are types of things that we hope will make it easier for everyone who receives funding from the agency. But like John said earlier, these improvements are definitely expected to help us become more efficient as well. Let's talk about. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're hearing a dial tone from someone. If you could please mute yourself. Thank you. All right, someone's phone is still ringing. If you could please mute yourself, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I will continue. There are going to be controls that get put in place to ensure that people need to have access to certain parts of the system. Those folks will have those permissions, but some others will not as we walk through that. For the sake of discussion, I'm just going to pick a community from within the state, and I'm going to say the city of Ocilla. Say the city has 3 active grants or loans with DCA. The mayor's going to have the ability to log in and see all 3 grants in the portal, and as the mayor, he's going to have some responsibility for signing and approving various reports, requests, forms, etc. And he's going to have the ability to view and complete required actions on all 3 awards through the portal. Similarly, if you're the grant writer or grant administrator, you will have the ability to see all of your active projects in one place within the portal as well. If you're working on 7 different awards with 4 DCA programs, all 7 of the awards will be accessible to you as you log in. This is part of that workflow and permission capability that's incorporated into the eCivis platform, and it's going to allow you the access to all necessary parts of the process for the projects. In the example above, let me give you another hypothetical example. The grant administrator is preparing a progress report for the city of Ocilla on a CHIP award. The grant administrator will be able to help prepare the report, upload the necessary information, and make it available for the mayor's review and approval. Since the mayor is the one who is required to approve such reports, this collaboration between the mayor and the administrator is both necessary and available. Remember, I started by saying that the city of Ocilla has 3 active projects. Let's take this a step further. If one grant administrator is working on 2 of those, they will only have access to those 2 with which they're working. They won't have access to the other grant that DCA has made to the city. So through this system, processes are going to be put in place to allow DCA and our recipients, grant writers, administrators, whomever, to communicate and transfer information back and forth. Graham will allow for those automations to create efficiencies in our process. Like John said earlier, the system's going to be able to integrate into our financial software as well. That's going to increase efficiencies, reduce manual transactions, and minimize the potential for errors. Hopefully, in the end, that is going to result in faster response times for our grantees. This isn't just going to help our grantees, though. We're expecting that within the 4 walls of DCA, we're going to be more efficient in our work. If someone's away from the office, all the work needing to be completed is going to be contained within Graham. There won't be lingering pieces of paper that have to be manually signed to advance your grant paperwork through the system. That's the beauty of what we're looking to implement, is that everything is going to be contained within this new system. You're going to be notified of any updates within the system, items that are due, things of that nature, immediately. And if there are questions or comments or issues, DCA is going to be able to communicate with you through the system, not relying on back and forth email communication, but everything is going to be self-contained within Graham. It's going to allow us to more effectively and efficiently monitor your progress on the grant or loan activities. The project management is also, project monitoring is also built into the system. So while we can't sit here and answer each and every question about exactly how it's going to look or what is going to be contained within the system as far as what's it going to look like, what do we click next, we're not at that point because it's not fully built out. But as John mentioned, eCivis is a vendor with tremendous experience in this arena. They've got experience with federal grants, they've got experience with HUD, they've got experience with many others. And by mid-year of 2021, we expect that these 16 grant and loan programs will be accepting applications through the portal. And this is going to become a new requirement for making application for funding from DCA. We haven't announced a full rollout schedule for which programs and what dates. It's going to be a rolling cycle through the beginning of the year. But I feel like I'm compelled to tell you that Cdbg is going to be the first program that we roll out for applications using Graham. That means our 2021 CDBG application cycle will be submitted through Graham. It's important for us as an agency to tell you this as early as possible. And it's also important for us to tell you this is a part of our strategic plan. DCA has been working diligently to better ourselves as an agency over the last few years, and completion of this project, but completion of the project successfully, is critical to us becoming a better and more efficient agency. Now let's take a look at a demo of how the system might look when it's fully implemented. Amanda, I'm going to turn it over to you at this point in time.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm hoping you guys can hear me. Rusty, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Amanda.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. As Rusty stated, my name is Amanda Yates. On behalf of eCivis, we are very excited to be here today to introduce the new Graham system to you. The new system will allow for one place for DCA recipients to apply and manage awards from one central location. Today, Anthony Torres, our Customer Success Manager, will be giving you a demonstration of the features of the new Graham system. Anthony?
Thank you so much. Well, like she said, I'm Anthony Torres. I'm a Customer Success Manager here with eCivis. And, if you guys could give me just the option to click on my name and make sure I have the share screen capacity, I'll go ahead and dive into showing the first thing from my list here. Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay. So I'll make sure, oh, give me one moment. I make a rule to not leave ceiling fans on during these. Welcome, everyone. What I'd like to show here is a high-level overview of how DCA is actually transforming and simplifying the entire application and management process for you, and that's from start to finish. So that's so that you can focus on what matters most. That's impacting your community with the funds that you pursue and receive. We'll show how this is consolidated and how it occurs within one seamless workflow. You'll get a good insight into that just as we start from the point of applying to a DCA grant opportunity to being awarded and what it looks like to be managing that same opportunity. So I'd like to start with a brief introduction to another state that has done this across multiple agencies within their government, and that's the state of Arizona. So you can see here, they actually have a web page that they've designated for a wealth of grants resources, and they have a page right here with eCivis embedded, their plugin to be able to look at opportunities within one location, to be able to click on the opportunity you want to read more about, find out information about the opportunity at a surface level, but also deeper into who's eligible, what are some match requirements or award ranges, financial restrictions, who do I contact if I have questions, and what files do I need as I'm going through this application process, whether it's reference documents or actual forms I have to attach and get signed or filled. And so we put this within one simple portal. You can trust that's going to look very similar with the CDBG and other grants that will be coming out, and there'll be a simple apply button like that. So I'm going to switch to an example CDBG program here. And you'll see here where there is an apply button that takes you into the process. So what I'm going to introduce you to now is the portal that everyone will be able to have access to, which is portal.ecivis.com. We have many people, of course, across the state of Arizona, in their case, that already have access to this. It's a free account setup, and coming to here, of course, we have a simple button to just provide first, last name, and email, and be able to use Portal for whatever you need for any program. Okay, we also provide for, if there's anyone on this call who actually does have a relationship with eCivis and has other services with eCivis, they even have a special login themselves, and we make it very easy for them. So that's the front end of the system. What would happen from there? the moment that they log in, of course, you're able to see an application dashboard and even any application projects if you have multiple that you're assigning and that you are submitting for one example program. And so you can see an example of even multiples in this case. So it may depend on program by program, right? What I'll also mention though is things within Portal that help save you time. You do set up your own profile, which actually does carry over into your applications for simplicity, but also allowing you the ability to overwrite that information. So hopefully that saves you some headache from having to re-enter your contact information several times over and over. We'll go back to my example and show you a sample of what another jurisdiction is done with a Cdbg application. And so I'm going to confirm my credentials and demonstrate that for you. All right. Oh, folks, give me one moment. I'll come back into this one. We'll do this. All right, thanks for holding just a moment for me. Let me go back a step actually to show you the dashboard. What you'll see in your portal application has a very simple navigation bar. You, of course, have access to the entire grant lifecycle in one seamless workflow. So you have your applications in one segment, you have your awards in another, and you can see even recently viewed programs on my page here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to re-enter that one really quick for me. Let me see here. Hopefully you're all still seeing my screen. I'm going to move over the toolbar here. Okay, excellent. And I'll go in actually through one more, just a separate window here, just so that we can remove any unnecessary pieces around it. So I apologize for the delay there. Always runs perfect until you need it, right? Okay. Excellent. So as I demonstrated before, a segment that actually contains your contact information is already imported. You do have the ability to edit, so that'll be something that'll save you time as you're filling out your applications. And as I mentioned, I have an example with 3 applications already running in it, one that's even submitted, so you have a dashboard to be able to track an application status. Have you submitted it and you're waiting a response? Are you still working on it? So you have easy visibility into what you're working on, and of course an audit trail after it's been submitted. So going into an application example, this is fairly similar to what we've launched with other jurisdictions and what we've also been helping DCA as a reference to be able to model after. You get a very simple layout. So you'll be thankful to be able to answer one question at a time in a clean layout, to have resource links as necessary. As we go to the bottom, crucial questions where you need to upload information. So if you need to provide resolutions or anything, any sort of confirmation, certifications within your application process, those will be uploaded here. Okay, and so it's a very simple application layout, and of course will be different for depending on the program, what questions are answered, so we won't go into any details there. I will also mention we have a very streamlined worksheet that is integrated into things where you will have to submit a budget worksheet, or in certain applications when you have to submit performance metrics and what you aim to achieve. Those are streamlined into a couple worksheets. So you would have a worksheet for entering in a budget, which would also contain just very simple Excel-like functionality to enter in your costs and have that attached with your application. Very similarly, I have with this one application there, an example of the goals and the performance metrics as a separate worksheet that, again, gets submitted when you actually submit your application. So just a quick overview there. Oops, I apologize. Let me go back. So looking at your applications, of course, at some point, let me go back into this one. I realize I'm changing screens fairly fast here, so I'll center myself here for a bit. Your application at some point, after clicking submit here, it's very simple. You get a message, and what we would point out here is there's a notification process where DCA, of course, goes through review and award recommendation process. So by the time that you are selected to receive an award, you do get emails that are automated. And so I'll show an example of that here. We have an example Cdbg Award. This is a notification letter. It comes in the form of an email from eCivis. It would have information from DCA's department outlaying everything that they need to provide to you per OMB 2 CFR guidelines, right? And you get an attachment in a PDF form that actually copies that. So you get a PDF copy of that award as well as the email version. We make it very simple whenever you are notified of an award to click a button, go back into portal, and go into the acceptance process. So we'll show you even how simple the acceptance process is now. All right. And if you'll forgive, I got a number of examples to show you today. So I got a few tabs open, a little bit of each stage available to show you today. So what I'm showing here is from the email, directly from the email, how simple it is to then accept your award. It links you right to your award that, first of all, contains documents from DCA and any standard contract and agreement documents, any reference documents that are necessary for you to fill or refer to would be right there, able to be downloaded. You go through a process of confirming your budget or your actual funds request, how much have you requested, and we will be centralizing this so that it actually kills two birds with one stone. It lets you list the amount that you're requesting, but also lines out how you plan to spend against it, which we'll show also today how you get one nice format that you are able to report spending against, track how much you've spent, and DCA gets the same benefit as well. They get to see how much they've awarded you in detail and how much you've spent against that. This will be the communication platform where you respond on this end, DCA responds on their end, and you of course get to monitor that through emails and this portal. Of course, you go through a process of accepting each step and uploading your contracts here, adding any further documents, and finalizing to send back to DCA. And of course, at that point, you are waiting for a final award decision. At that point, DCA is deciding whether everything is in order from the award files they've given you. And at that point, if everything's in order and signed, then you receive another notification and are able to manage your award in eCivis portal. So it's a very good sign when you receive this second email that looks like this. And you're able to, again, from the email and the notification that you've been awarded, go right back into portal and do anything that you need to do. So we'll talk about, it was mentioned earlier, the process of actually getting invoice requests through, sending your reimbursement request as will be done here as well. All right, so we'll show a little bit of that process here. I mentioned earlier from the navigation bar, I'll start from there. You get a dashboard of any awards that you're managing. So if you have multiple DCA awards, they're all in one system. So at this point, if I have my annual competition, my Cdbg annual competition project has been awarded, then I have a full dashboard to be able to manage that. An exciting piece to this too is when people are struggling to maintain logins, or who has the login to our grantor portal, can we get this information? Having that centralized to one person, while there's benefits to that, it can cause headaches. And so what we provide here is a team atmosphere to the post-award management piece. So of course, anyone who has accepted this is also able to bring in team members who will also be able to view these details for records, or even contribute to the process of requesting that invoice or sending. We'll also mention amendments can be sent through here. You'll notice here I do have a full dashboard for being able to actually add team members and have those people simply get an invite, sign into portal, since again it's free and easy to access, and that person can then see the same award. Great. Okay, so going down a little bit further, I'll mention just some of the basic aspects of what you would use this page for and what you get to do here. So I mentioned, of course, invoice requests or reimbursement requests. There is a process of DCA may execute circular and repetitive reports for you. If you have a schedule of quarterly reporting, for instance, that can be scheduled within a task list. You'll be able to go to any task and have a standard format that you fill out online. You don't have to download a PDF or fill out extensive spreadsheets unless there's something ancillary to this that maybe has been arranged still. But the simplicity of this is that in the same place that you are sending a request, you are also selecting the main details of your report. You are also able to track how you have requested in the past, so you have a live view of how much of your award is left. If every payment that you had requested in the past were actually paid, how much do you have left within each budget category? We have a couple category examples here, one for general administration and one kind of for everything else that's actually activity, just as a sample here. So this may be the most vision heavy or visceral example of what you may be doing now in spreadsheets in a very tedious process. There may be things that you can sum up very simply in a format like this from getting a financial report task, for instance. And so, of course, we have options then to confirm that reimbursement, to back up that information with a narrative and any supporting documentation. I'll also mention that DCA may provide instructions on the top of your report to make sure that you know what to include, so they can make it simple for you. So you may be reading a NOFA and trying to understand your reports, but we give them a way to be able to communicate on the page here. What are the instructions to submit these reports? And of course, the moment that you click submit, this is connected to DCA's system, to the GRAM system, so that they're able to respond and you're able to get an email when they have actually approved. And not only that, but a second step would be them also marking that invoice or that reimbursement as paid. So we track both events so that you can make sure that you know when a report has been approved and when you should be expecting money. So when we go down to this dashboard, you'll see an example here. So we have the current status always displaying for you, if it's approved and awaiting payment. And you also have very similar functionality for when it comes to reporting on progress. And just a heads up to be able to mute all participants. Be good theme music for me. I'll continue on though. I'll demonstrate sort of the sister report to this. And I just want to point out that anything you have where you're measuring the number of people served, businesses assisted, whatever metrics you may be measuring against, you'll be able to keep track of that progress and also report to DCA within a simple format. They're able to roll up those numbers for you as well. All of this will be provided in later training documentations and possible training events to go in more in detail. So, hold tight for that. The last thing I do want to point out is the ability to request budget amendments. And as I go into this process here, you can see I actually have an amendment that's active here. It's very simple for you to lay out your award acceptance details and even amend small things. If it's simply, when does your grant end? What is the project name? And of course, if you are requesting an increase to your award or any changes to your budget at all, this simplifies the process. I'll also mention you may change your goals. Let me double check if I have. Appreciate that. All right. So as I mentioned here, this is the process of simply requesting an amendment from DCA, and it goes through each part of your agreement and what you're amending, and you have the ability to send that in a way to response, again, by email, but also monitoring your dashboard, you and your team members, to see when this has been fulfilled and when you can start delivering on the possible additional funds or change in program metrics or whatever it may be that you've changed in your agreement. So I'll go back here. With that, I'm going to start from back from the dashboard here. So as a quick recap, we followed this this example from the beginning, from the point of actually soliciting or receiving a solicitation from DCA and reading that, to applying, to submitting that application, to receiving an award notification, accepting that award, and then once being accepted and becoming a subrecipient, this is the portal where the same place, you have that same application turn into award details that you then deliver on. With that, I will mention there may be some of you who will be seeing a similar process from the post-award point on, and I want to mention some of you may receive, may not be going through a process of submitting an application and a competitive process that gets reviewed and evaluated similar to any competitive grant, but you may have other grants, whether it's emergency disaster related grants or anything where you may be pre-designated for funds. We have a streamlined process for that as well that picks up right at the award stage. You simply get an email that lets you know you've got a direct award and they would like to initiate that process with you. So it's really simple to set up a portal account at that point if you don't already have one, fill out a few basic pieces of information, and be able to jump right to the point of accepting an award the moment that you actually receive a full award package. So we're excited to be able to provide advancements like that where there are easy ways for DCA to get funds out the door to you so you can make community impact. With that, I will go ahead and deliver it back to Rusty, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Amanda. It's a lot that has been thrown at you this afternoon. I know that you're not going to feel like you are adequately prepared to jump in and start preparing applications at this point. Don't worry, we're going to have lots of training as we continue to roll out Graham. One thing that we were looking for as we evaluated these dozen or so proposals that John referenced was a system that we thought was intuitive. And I think once you get in and you start experiencing the system, I hope that you will think like we did, that this is going to be a pretty intuitive process so that you can go from one step to the next through the application process. A couple of questions that have appeared in the chat box. I'll start trying to address some of those. Feel free to go ahead and add questions at this point in time. Yes, this presentation will be available upon completion of the conference. All of the sessions will be uploaded to DCA's website. That presentation is going to include the slideshow, so you will get the opportunity to hear and see what was discussed. There was a question in here. Just one moment. Rhonda Gilbert asked if this is going to be for all DCA grant applications to include CHIP. Yes, Rhonda, we are looking at 16 different programs, which will include everything from CHIP and Cdbg, our emergency solutions grants, HOPWA, Appalachian Regional Commission, One Georgia. So the spectrum of our programs, and that's not all of them. That was just a smattering of them. We're looking to make sure that we get all of our application processes into Graham. Deborah Smith asked, will training be available for the Cdbg Applicants workshop? I'm assuming it is the workshop you're referring to, Deborah. The timeline for us to get the system built and ready for deployment is November, which is next month. So we will be able to roll out the platform, have training, modules, discussions, things of that nature available for our communities and applicants in time for the Cdbg cycle for 2021. Angela Steedley, when is the first digital Cdbg application cycle? We have not put the official application due date on this, but it will be the 2021 cycle, Angela. Greg Boyke, will the Graham platform have logons for grant administrators separate from community logins, and will the community have to grant access to a grant writer, or are logins simply reserved one for each grantee? I'm probably going to step a little further if I try to answer it. Amanda, Anthony, Rick, can you get behind the veil and answer that question?
Sure. This is Anthony too, and I can step in a little bit here. Amanda, feel free to add to this. As far as having to grant access to a grant writer to one of your own logins, that we wouldn't have you worry about that at all. But we would essentially, based on the premise that everybody has their own portal account tied to their own email, we've had a lot of success with communities that are applying, granting an email address that are, for a contractor that are specific, that are tied to their own entity. So, a city may give a city email address for that grant writer if they do a lot of business with them, and that email address is tied to a unique portal account. And that, of course, that project that they apply for can be moved around, can be brought into the larger team. They can be removed off of it, so that part's dynamic. Certainly, no to the question, are logins reserved one for each grantee? If you're talking about the entity, no, it's definitely a lot more versatile and broad than that, in that each individual would have a login tied to their email and can collaborate, especially on the post-award side.
Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks.
Any additional questions at this point in time? Will current recipients use Graham? We're still going to have to figure out exactly how existing awards get incorporated into the system. The timing on that, I don't want to commit at this point in time, but what we can definitively tell you at this point is all new applications will go through Graham beginning in 2021. Any additional questions before I toss it back over to John? What size is allowed for submittal? That's going to have to be answered by Anthony, Amanda, and Rick.
Yeah, I can take that one as well. It may come from a place of, you've usually maybe had to upload one package or a packet that becomes a sizable PDF document. And the thing with this, of course, is that a lot of the uploads are spread, and a lot of the field information is simply on the screen rather than in something that you have to compile and upload. And so if your question, though, is you have individual files or certifications you still need to upload within that form, as I demonstrated, there's only whatever size restrictions that DCA may place on their end, just based off of their internal data administration. So you may see messages per application that says, for this field, keep it to this size. So there's some variety there. I can't provide a too definitive an answer, but could be sky's the limit in many cases, I should say.
Nancy, our hope is that we don't restrict the ability of applicants to upload all of the information that is necessary within each of the upload fields. Other questions? Thank you for taking DCA into the 21st century. We appreciate that. All right, John, I'm not seeing any additional questions, so I'm going to toss it back to you for the last part of the program.
Great. So here's an opportunity for us to get your feedback once again. So if you'll go to the Mentee site, and you can use that same code, 9613075. We want to hear about your thoughts on the new Graham system, so we can get a sense of what y'all are thinking. We already know at least one of you is happy that we're going into the 21st century, so that's good. Some of these are funny, finally. That's how we feel too.
Exactly.
And our fingers are crossed as well. Well, that's great. I see excited is one of the predominant words. So we're very excited at DCA. We're very happy that our grantees are excited, feeling hopeful, think it's awesome. We will tell you that, as Rusty pointed out, we're still building this as we go along. The great news is we have full confidence come 2021. We're gonna have a functioning new grants management system that's gonna streamline things for our grantees. And if you have any further questions about the grants system, we have developed a very long email address. But feel free, any questions or comments you have, you can send to that email address on the screen, which is just grantmanagementproject@dca.ga.gov. Thank you very much. I want to especially thank our partners at eCivis for the job they did today, and y'all have a great afternoon.